The Shimakaze is a tier 10 Japanese destroyer, known for its exceptional track record as the fastest passenger ship in the 1940s, until that one game arrived, giving the ship its well-deserved identity, while simultaneously setting up the stage of ruining every military MMO games that came after. This used to be a fearsome ship, but as time flies, many things in the game steadily push the Shimakaze into obsolescence, to a point where it could end up in a video made by that existential dread turtle. But this is clearly not an issue for many, as it is still one of the most popular destroyer in the game. If I had to guess, it's due to how easy it is to play. This is a torpedo boat at its purest form, equipped with 15 of the most dangerous torpedoes ever created by mankind, each dealing over 20,000 damage. 1 is enough to cripple smaller ships, 2 would outright destroy them, 3 or more would take us back to 2016 where people are still very upset when this icon appear on their screen. It has 3 torpedo options that aligns nicely with normal distribution. You have the 20km slow torpedoes for the smooth brains, the 12km torpedoes for the commoners, and the 8km YOLO torpedoes for the lunatics. By the way, it also has 6 5-inch guns that simply exist for the sake of existing, just like the Gen Y, until they do something about it. It is also the stealthiest destroyer at tier 10. Whether or not this matters depends on your luck, and thankfully still fast enough to get into places. This is all nice to have, but here comes the important part. How do you land torpedoes with the Shimakaze? The most common way everyone would do is to follow the gray line, and then making a wish. But if you want to increase the success rate and feel better about it, you must put yourself on the enemy's place. Where is he going? What is his intention? Are there islands around the ship? How many people currently shooting at him? And many other factors that were often ignored for convenience. Then you use those information to better predict where and when to launch the torpedoes. For example, there is a retreating enemy ship, a very common sight. Normally you can just follow the gray line, but a retreating ship will always want to open his broadside to shoot their guns, changing their heading, and made you miss your torpedoes. What you want to do instead is to create as much angle as possible and launch torpedoes slightly ahead of the gray line, so the next time he attempts to shoot, he will be facing torpedoes from its broadside instead. Another example, you spot an enemy ship, he's sailing towards you. Normally you would be inclined to launch directly at his face. However, there are teammates behind you that were now shooting at him. Assuming he isn't dumb, he will do a full rudder, which means you will miss. In this case you want to launch torpedoes further ahead, before he started the turn. All of this require experience. There is no real way around it. Your success at landing torpedoes depends on your ability to read all the variables in that moment and finding an attack solution. Yet despite all that work, you still have to submit that torpedo attack plan to the almighty RNGesus. He will then decide if you should be rewarded for your trouble or letting the enemy ship to get away with its own torpedo beat moment. I call this an educated luck. Fortunately you have 3 chances to do it. However, oftentimes the game simply worked too well and gives you the same outcome without having to think too much about it, which often ends up in amusement. This unpredictability is the real dopamine that kept players around and probably the biggest reason why the Shimakaze is this popular. So in general, be as parallel as possible to your target ship and go from there. The more you notice what's happening around you, the higher the chance of pleasing the RNGesus. One of the biggest mistakes Shimakaze players make is their refusal to use the guns deliberately and playing the ship in such a way that prevents gun engagement from happening. Yes, they are unwieldy to use. Yes, they take forever to reload, but they shoot small nuclear bombs that can ruin destroyers with a single shot. Here is how you use them. First of all, and this is important, is to be the first one that spots the enemy destroyer. You have the concealment advantage to do this. Then, you immediately kite away and retreat, readying your guns before the enemy spots you, and then shoot when you are spotted. You can continue shooting if the enemy destroyer has low DPM or slow brain, and once you have attracted enough attention, you disengage with your smoke. You do not fight, you hit and run. Fighting is only for so-called unicorns that wants everyone to notice them. A single salvo coming from a Shimakaze that is angling away is a message that it means business, and it will happily waste your time if you decide to run it down, unless you are playing a carrier or a radar ship. So in general, you want to use the guns on the Shimakaze to pull off that important first shot against enemy destroyer, then use the smoke to disengage. You can do this at least 4 times in each game. Just don't use the smoke for offensive purposes, unless you are winning, or when there is a specific strategic advantage that requires smoke. A useful tip I got from one of my Discord member is to drop depth charges when an action is ongoing. Apparently it will help conceal the ship and make it accelerate faster. Do whatever you want with this information. And that's basically the ship in a nutshell. It is made to maximize torpedo damage output and nothing else. So focus on doing that, and put everything else as second priority. This includes destroy routines such as capping or spotting. If you want to do actual team play, there are better destroyers for that role. Yes, I'm gonna say it. The Shimakaze is not a team play ship. It is functionally similar to HE spamming battleships that snipes from the back. People will start to care about its existence only when it did like 2 dev strikes and a high caliber, not by spotting the enemy or creating a buffer for your team. Playing the Shimakaze is about experiencing all the things associated with a ship that can dump a lot of torpedoes at once. You either do nothing, or you could pull off such spectacular move that cannot be replicated again. This is the beauty of the Shimakaze. It's incredibly funny. Maybe not when there are carriers or radars around, but still funny when those nuclear torpedoes manage to find its mark. Just don't let the opposite happen to you. This is how you play the weakest tier 10 destroyer. You take liquidator, swift fish, fill the tubes, and concealment. Then take superintendent, survivability expert, swift in silence, and finally preventative maintenance. If you want more challenge, then you can swap survivability expert with adrenaline rush. For the upgrades, you take main armament mod 1, engine room protection, torpedo tubes mod 1, propulsion, concealment, and torpedo tubes mod 2. You can even use the unique upgrade to further increase torpedo DPM. Being easy to play, stealthy, massive torpedo power, hated by the battleships, and could be both an annoyance or a pushover, makes the perfect ship for the average warship enjoyer. I'm of course talking about submarines. Torpedo-focused ships like Shimakaze is a proof that people will happily play a ship that requires the least amount of effort necessary to work. Why think so much when you can just follow the gray line and be invisible while doing it? But you can do better simply by paying more attention and then getting those important dopamine rush when this achievement pops on your screen. Pretty simple concept if you can live with your counters and treat them as part of naval warfare. So go out there and enjoy yourself. Just like how I enjoy making the model of the Shimakaze, like the Fuso. This is on the same 6:5 scale. It is very small. You could even hold it like a pen. But despite the size, it is now packed with more details and features over the Fuso. But before that, I want to thank you everyone who has downloaded and printed the Fuso model. I wasn't expecting it to be super popular, but it did, and I have received valuable feedbacks. Now, the main reason of why I choose the Shimakaze is to find out how much detail I can get without the need of specialized features on the printer and on the smallest warship in that scale, as I want it to remain accessible to most people. The first thing I did is separating the pieces into groups. Now it fits smaller printers, makes printing faster, and less chance of failing the whole print. I also took this chance to make the deck as a separate print, so it can be printed in different color, such as this specific one I use that closely match the deck color of Japanese ships. Next were the armaments. The turret now comes in 3 separate pieces. The barrels can now be elevated. And here is the quintuple torpedo launcher. As you can see, they are hollow, as it is made to fit the equally small 61cm torpedoes. Good luck printing these. Then we have the mast. This requires some finesse to bend them the right way. Definitely the hardest part to get right, but once in place it will complete the look. And finally the hull. I designed it to have a much better use of space. Now it comes with holes for small magnets, which can be used to easily fit the lower hull, and allows you to stick the ship anywhere you like. Let's not forget the pedestal as well. Now that it's finished, I think this Shimakaze model is a definitive standard for my future 3D printed projects. It took quite some time, but at least I modeled it properly this time around. My printer has been busy doing other prints as well, and I have been learning CAD, which means I don't have the time to play the game. So all of the in-game footages you've seen are submissions from my Discord members. Don't worry, they do get compensated. Honestly, I like it this way. More time to focus on making models and less time getting upset with the game. Although I do wish I could better manage my time. For the next one, I'm thinking of making the paper ships from the game. Leave a comment and I'll have it considered. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day and happy printing.
Come on everybody.